The sun was low in the sky when James walked through the market. He was the only human in the town, and most aliens looked at him with curious eyes. Some whispered, some turned away. He didn't mind. He was used to being different. He had just finished buying dried meat and fruit from a vendor. As he placed the food into his travel bag, something strange happened. A soft tug on his backpack. Light and fast. James turned quickly, but saw only a small figure running away. It was a child. An alien child. Small, skinny, with big dark eyes and thin arms. The child had no shoes and wore torn clothes. He disappeared into the narrow alley. Between two broken walls, James touched his bag and noticed a piece of bread was missing. He frowned. Why would a kid steal just a piece of bread? He thought it wasn't much. But something about the way that child ran, it wasn't normal. He was scared, desperate. James could have let it go. But something deep inside told him to follow. He stepped into the alley. The walls were covered in dust. The floor was dry, cracked, and silent. He moved carefully, watching where the child had gone. There were no signs, no sounds, only the trail of small footprints in the dust. The path led him out of the market and toward the old edge of the city, where no one lived anymore. Just broken buildings, rusted doors, and shadows. Then he heard it. A whisper. A soft, tired voice. Not the child's voice, but someone else. He got closer and stopped near an old stone wall, partly broken. Behind it was a small, hidden space. A corner of two walls met, forming a kind of shelter made from trash and cloth. James peeked in and froze. The alien child was sitting beside a woman. She was laying on the ground, wrapped in a torn blanket. Her skin was pale. Her eyes were closed. She looked sick, very sick. Her arms were thin. Her breathing was slow and weak. The child had broken the bread into small pieces and was pressing one piece to her lips. "Come on, Mama," the child whispered, tears in his eyes. "You have to eat, please." The woman moved a little but did not open her eyes. James stepped forward. Slowly. The child saw him and jumped in front of the woman, arms wide. "Please," the boy shouted, voice shaking. "Don't take her. Don't hurt her." James stopped. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. "You stole my bread, but now I know why." The boy didn't move. "I'm not angry," James said again. "Is she your mother?" The child nodded quickly, still scared. "She's very sick. She hasn't eaten in 2 days." James took off his bag and knelt down. He pulled out a bottle of clean water and held it out. The child looked at him with wide eyes, not trusting at first. But hunger and fear made him reach forward. He took the bottle and helped his mother drink. She coughed, then swallowed slowly. James also gave him a soft fruit. "What's your name?" he asked. The child wiped his nose and said, "Ren." "Hi, Ren. I'm James." Ren didn't answer. He just looked down at his mother. "She's been like this for many days?" James asked. "Yes," Ren whispered. "She worked in the city, cleaning floors. But when she got sick, they said she was useless. They made us leave. We had nowhere to go." James clenched his jaw. "They threw you out just like that?" Ren nodded. "No one helps. They say we're not worth anything." James looked around. There was no one nearby. Just the sounds of wind and silence. He pulled his jacket off and laid it gently over the woman. "She's burning up," he said. "She has a fever." Ren looked at him. "Can you help her?" James met the boy's eyes. "I'll try." He opened his bag again and took out a small box of pills, basic medicine he carried for emergencies. He crushed one, mixed it with water, and gently gave it to the woman. She coughed again, but this time her eyes opened just a little. She looked at James confused. Then she whispered, "You're human." James nodded. "Why?" she asked weakly. "Why are you helping?" "US?" James didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Because no one else did." Asterisk a cold wind passed through the broken walls as James sat beside the weak alien woman. The night had started to fall, and the stars above began to glow, but the woman below them was fading. Her breathing was slow. Her lips were dry and cracked. Her eyes opened just a little, then closed again. It was like her body was here, but her soul was already leaving. The boy Ren held her hand tightly. "Stay with me, Mama," he whispered. "Please stay." James looked at them both. The boy was too small, too thin. His face was dirty. But his eyes, they were full of something powerful. Love. James searched in his bag again. He had a few more small medicine tablets meant for fever and infection. But her condition, it was worse than he thought. "She needs real care," he whispered to himself. "Is she dying?" Ren asked, his voice breaking. James didn't answer right away. "She's very sick," he said slowly. "But if we keep her warm, give her food and water, and help her rest, she might live." "Might?" James looked into the child's eyes. "I won't let her die, Ren. I promise." Ren's shoulders shook. He wiped his nose with his sleeve. He had no tears left, just fear. Suddenly, the woman began to shake. Her body trembled, and her breath became fast. James moved quickly. He laid her flat, took off his own blanket, and covered her. He placed his hand on her forehead. She was burning. Then something strange happened. Her hand reached up weak and slow and touched James's face. "You feel warm," she whispered. "I'm here," James said softly. "You're not alone." She smiled a little, then fell silent again. James turned to Ren. "When did she last eat something real?" 3 days ago, the boy said. "I tried to find help, but no one wanted to give anything. They told me to go away." James's heart burned with anger. "Your people just left you both to die?" "She worked for them," Ren said. "Every day she cleaned their houses. When she coughed too much, they said she was sick and dirty. Then they threw us out." James clenched his fists. Had seen war. He had seen monsters. But this kind of cruelty, it was worse than a battlefield. "Ren," James said, "do you trust me?" The boy nodded slowly. "Then help me. Let's keep her warm. We'll feed her again soon, and tomorrow I'll find someone who can help." James stayed beside them. The whole night, he didn't sleep. He watched the woman breathe, making sure it didn't stop. He gave her tiny sips of water and spoke gently to keep her from slipping away. But even as he tried to help, something inside him felt heavy. This wasn't just one sick alien woman. This was a broken world. A world where people left others behind, just because they couldn't work. Just because they were weak. Just because they were poor. And now, he was the only one standing between this woman and death. Morning light slowly painted the walls gold. The air was still cold, but softer. The woman stirred. James leaned in. She opened her eyes a little, looked at him, and then at Ren, who was asleep against her side. Her voice was soft. "He didn't eat either." James smiled gently. "He's strong. Just like you." She tried to smile but failed. "Why are you helping us?" James looked at her, calm and sure. "Because you're alive. That's enough reason." Her lips trembled. A tear rolled down her cheek. She had forgotten what kindness felt like. "Thank you," she whispered. "Stranger." James looked at her and said, "My name is James." She whispered back, "I'm sorry." Then she closed her eyes again, but this time not in pain. She was resting. James looked at the sleeping child, the resting mother, and the rising sun. But then he heard a noise. A voice. Distant, cruel. "Laughing, you really fed them?" A voice said from behind the wall. "Let the trash die, human. You'll regret helping them." James stood up slowly, eyes cold now. He had a feeling this wasn't over, not even close. Morning brought light, but not warmth. The city of Corvalin, with its strange towers and alien symbols, looked beautiful from a distance. But in its heart, it was colder than space itself. James carried Sari in his arms. She was too weak to walk. Ren followed closely, holding onto James's coat with both hands. His little legs struggled to keep up, but he didn't let go. They passed through back alleys and quiet paths, avoiding the crowds. James had one goal: find help. He approached the first clinic, a small alien medical tent with glowing signs. Female alien in a white coat stepped out. "Please," James said. "She's burning with fever. She needs help." The nurse looked at him, then at the sick woman in his arms. Her face changed. "She's a street dweller," the nurse said coldly. "We don't treat trash here." "She's a person," James snapped. "A mother," the nurse didn't blink. "Your kind may help anyone. But we have rules." James stepped forward. "She worked in your city. She served your people. Now you leave her to die?" The nurse stepped back and pressed a button. A metal door slid shut in his face. Ren looked up. "They won't help?" James's voice was tight. "No, but someone will." He went to another building, a tall one with glowing red windows. "A food center. Please," he told the worker. "Inside. She needs something warm to eat, even soup." The alien worker laughed. "No payment, no food, not even for your pet." "She's not a pet," James shouted. "She's a mother." The worker leaned forward and whispered, "Then maybe you should keep her on a leash, human." James's fists tightened, but he turned and walked away. Sari, barely conscious in his arms, mumbled something. He leaned closer. "They all know me. They used me, then threw me away." James had heard stories like this. On Earth, on Mars. Now here too. The ones who break their backs for others are often left behind. He walked toward the merchant district, where Sari once worked. A large alien male stood in front of a fancy house. James recognized the symbol on the wall. Ren did too. "That's where she cleaned," the boy said. "Every day." James stepped forward. "Do you know her?" he asked. The merchant looked at Sari, then smirked. "Oh, that one, the weak one. She dropped a dish once. Cost me 2 credits. We threw her out." "She's dying," James said. "And your people let a child starve beside her." The merchant laughed. "Then let them die. More space for useful workers." James took a deep breath. His jaw tightened. But he didn't strike the alien, not yet. Instead, he turned. Ren's eyes were full of tears. Why does no one care, James?" James looked at him, and then at the city, the towers, the lights, the people who looked but never saw. "They care about power," James said softly, "not people." They returned to the small camp outside the city wall. It was quiet there. Safe for now. James placed Sari down gently on the bedding. She was breathing slower now, not better, not worse. Just holding on. He made Ren eat a full meal, then sat beside them both. "I don't understand," Ren said. "If she dies, no one will remember her." "I will," James said. "And I'll make sure someone pays for what they did." Ren blinked. "You will?" James nodded. "I'm not from here. But I've seen this before. Weak people left to die, kind ones crushed under greed. I can't fix the whole world, Ren." He looked at the boy, firm and calm, "But I can save one." That night, while Ren slept, James stared into the dark sky. He had faced aliens with guns. He had survived explosions, battles, but this coldness, this silence of cruelty. It was the worst enemy he'd ever known, and it was everywhere. He looked at Sari. Her hand curled near her chest. And whispered, "You don't deserve this. And I swear, I won't let you go without a fight." The fire was small, but it danced like it wanted to live. James sat beside it, silent. The dry wood crackled, casting soft light on Sari's pale face. Her breaths came slower now, like each one was a decision her body had to make. Ren was curled up beside her, too tired to cry anymore. But his small hand never left hers. This place wasn't much. Just a half-broken shelter made of metal sheets and old blankets James had pulled together. But tonight, it was the only place in the galaxy where hope still flickered. He had built it with his hands as human hands because no one else would, and maybe no one else ever had. The next morning came with a warning. Heavy clouds rolled in, the kind that brought acid rain on this planet. James stepped out to look up. He knew they had to stay inside. He looked back. Sari was still breathing, but barely. Ren was trying to feed her bits of soft fruit, whispering softly. "She won't eat much," he said. "Her body hurts too much inside." James nodded and took out the last of the pain tablets from his pouch. He crushed them carefully, mixed them into water, and gave them to Ren. "She needs rest. And we need heat." He worked quickly using scraps, wiring, and a tiny power saw from his tools to power a heating rod. It wasn't meant for this, but it would work. As he fixed things, Ren sat beside him. "James," he said, "do humans have mothers too?" James smiled softly. "Yes, we do," Ren nodded. "Did your mother ever go hungry?" James didn't answer right away. "No, she made sure I ate first. Even when she didn't." Ren looked at the fire. "Mama did that too." Then his face changed. A sad, angry look. "Why do people only care when you're useful?" James looked him in the eyes. "Because they've forgotten what it means to be good." Ren was quiet, then asked, "Are you good?" James sighed. "I don't know, but I'm trying." That night, the acid rain began. It hissed against the roof like 1,000 snakes. The metal shook, the walls creaked. But the shelter held. Inside, warm air surrounded them. James wrapped Sari in 2 layers of blankets. Her fever hadn't gotten worse, but it hadn't gone away either. Her lips moved once. "Cold." James touched her hand. "Not anymore. You're safe now." She opened her eyes for the first time in a full day. They were dim, but not empty. She saw Ren sleeping beside her. Then her eyes met James's. "You stayed," she whispered. "I told you," James replied. "I don't leave people behind." A single tear slid from the corner of her eye. "They all did." "Not me," he said firmly. "You'll get in trouble," she warned weakly. "They don't like strangers helping trash." James leaned closer. "They can try to stop me." Her voice trembled. "They might hurt you," he smiled softly. "Let them try." Later that night, after she drifted into sleep again, James heard movement outside. He stood slowly and grabbed a piece of pipe, just in case. Then he saw a small shadow appear at the door. An old alien man, thin with tired eyes. "You're the human," he said quietly. "The one caring for the sick woman." James narrowed his eyes. "Yes, what do you want?" The old man didn't step inside. "I have something for her." From under his coat, he pulled out a tiny sealed jar. "Old medicine. I saved it for years. Never thought I'd use it." James took it carefully. "Why give it to me?" The man didn't smile. "Because once, she cleaned my floor and left a flower at my door. For no reason. No one ever gave me anything without asking for something back." He turned to leave. "What's your name?" James asked. The old man paused. "Doesn't matter. Just save her." And then he was gone. James crushed the contents of the jar. It smelled bitter but strong. He gave it to Sari in slow sips. By morning, her fever had started to break. Her skin felt cooler. Her chest rose and fell more gently. James let out a long breath. For the first time in days, she looked like she might survive. But just as he smiled, a sharp sound cut through the early air. Footsteps, heavy ones, coming closer. Ren woke up with a start. "James?" James moved to the shelter door and peeked. Out his heart sank. 3 city guards, wearing black armor. One of them shouted, "Human, you're hiding stolen property. Give up the woman and boy now." Jane stared, then looked back at Sari and Ren, and slowly stood between them and the door. The first boot slammed against the metal floor outside the shelter. Then another. 3 alien guards stood just beyond the firelight, dressed in black armor with glowing red lines on their arms. Their faces were hard, sharp, and cruel. Their eyes locked onto James like hunters who had found a wounded animal. James didn't move. He stood in the doorway of the shelter, body firm, face calm, but his heart beat like a drum. Behind him, Ren clutched his mother's hand. Sari, still weak, opened her eyes slowly. "James, what's happening?" she whispered. He turned his head just enough to answer. "Stay down, I'll handle it." The lead guard stepped forward and raised a scanning device. A red light moved across James's face. "This human is unauthorized to host natives outside the refugee zones," the device barked in a cold voice. "Violating citizen separation laws, classy offense." The guard smiled darkly. "You're breaking the law, human. Giving shelter to a useless stray and her filthy child." James's jaw tightened. "Her name is Sari, and that child has a name too, Ren." The second guard stepped beside the first. "You will hand them over, or you'll be charged. And when you're charged," he tapped the side of his weapon, "you disappear." James didn't flinch. "They're sick, dying, and no one." "Help them," the third guard laughed. "That's the point. If they can't work, they're waste." Ren whimpered from behind the blanket. Sari coughed, her voice weak but clear. "Leave him alone." "He saved us." The guards laughed harder. James stepped forward. His shadow stretched in the firelight. He didn't hold a weapon, but his words were sharp. "I've seen your kind before," he said. "Wearing armor, barking orders, thinking you're gods. You think you're brave?" One of them asked. "No," James said. "But I'm not afraid of cowards who attack the weak." The lead guard's face twisted with anger. "Last warning, move aside." James reached into his coat slowly. The guards flinched, grabbing their weapons, then paused. He pulled out a silver badge, a worn emblem, military issue, Earth Special Operations. "I'm not just a traveler," James said. "I'm a decorated war veteran. 10 battles, 3 campaigns. And I swore an oath to protect those who can't protect themselves." The guards looked at each other. The badge was real. James lowered his voice, but his tone was steel. "You want to take this woman and child? You'll have to go through me." A long silence followed. Then the lead guard laughed again. "You think your badge means something? Here, this isn't your planet, human." "No," James said. "But right and wrong still matter. And I'm not stepping aside." One of the guards raised his shock rifle. James didn't move. "Shoot me, and this story spreads. The first human to help a native woman gets murdered by the city guard. Even your leaders won't like that attention." They hesitated. Ren peeked out from behind the curtain. He saw the tall man standing strong, alone, in front of danger. For the first time in his life, he saw what real courage looked like. The guards stared at James. Then the leader hissed, "This isn't over. The city watches everything. You're marked now." They turned, walked into the dark. Gone. For now. James waited until their footsteps disappeared completely. Then he turned, walked back inside, and dropped to his knees. He was shaking, not from fear, but from fury. Sari reached out and touched his hand. You didn't have to stand for us." James looked at her. "Yes, I did." Ren crawled too. Him hugged him without saying a word. The silence spoke louder than anything. Outside, the wind blew cold and strong. But inside the shelter, warmth had returned, not from the fire, from something far more powerful. A human heart that refused to walk away. The city didn't sleep. Its lights flickered far beyond the shelter, blinking like the cold eyes of a beast watching from the dark. James stood at the edge of the hill, looking down at that glowing monster. He knew it was coming. The silence before the storm was always the loudest. Inside the shelter, Wren fed his mother small bites of soft root. Her eyes looked clearer today. Her breath was stronger, but her body still trembled. "She's getting better," Wren said with a smile, hope shining in his voice. James nodded, but his hand never left the grip of the old pipe he kept near the door. The guards would return. Not with threats this time, with force. At dusk, the sound of engines shattered the peace. 2 black carriers landed near the outer fields. Dust flew into the air. From them, 6 armed guards marched forward, twice the number from before. They came with long rifles and bright armor. Their helmets covered their faces now. There was no negotiation in their walk. Only orders they had come to take. James stepped outside before they reached the shelter. His boots pressed into the dry earth. His coat flapped in the wind. The pipe was in one hand. In the other, nothing. No gun. No shield. Just resolve. The lead guard from before stepped forward. "I warned you, human." "And I didn't move," James replied. "This is your final chance. Give up the woman and the child. You can walk away alive." James stared at them. Then he dropped the pipe. For a moment, the guards smirked, but James raised both hands and spoke loudly, clearly. "You want to show power? Do it. Attack me, in front of the city cameras, in front of anyone who still has a soul left." The guards froze. "I'm not hiding anymore," James continued. "I've helped more people in war zones than your leaders have helped in their whole lives. You kill me here, and every transmission tower will hear about it." He pointed toward the sky. "I sent a message this morning to the Interplanet Aid Network, with recordings, photos, proof of what this city does to its poor." The guards' helmets turned toward each other. "If I go down," James said, stepping forward, "your whole system burns with me." One guard raised his weapon, but the leader stopped him. A long pause followed. Then a sound came fast, loud, a whistle. A crowd had begun to gather. Poor workers, street vendors. One by one, they stood behind James, quiet at first. But their eyes said it all. They had heard, they had seen. And now they stood with the human. The lead guard looked at them all, then back at James. "This isn't over," he growled. "You've made enemies, human." James stepped closer, eyes sharp as blades. "No, I've made a stand." The guards retreated, their boots kicking dust into the wind. Later that night, the shelter glowed with a stronger fire. James sat beside it, wrapping bandages over his scraped hands. He hadn't fought with fists, but with courage. Wren looked at him like he was something from a legend. Sorry, with strength slowly returning to her voice, whispered, "You faced them alone." James shook his head. "No," he said. "I stood in front, but I wasn't alone." He looked at Wren. "At the end, people stood behind me, because truth stands taller than fear." Sari smiled weakly. "You changed something." Today, James didn't answer. He only stared into the fire, and finally allowed himself to rest. The sun rose slower than usual. Its soft golden light crept over the hills, gently touching the shelter's roof like a promise. The winds were calm, the sky was quiet, and for the first time in many days, no footsteps came. Peace had finally arrived. Inside the shelter, Sari sat up unaided. A blanket covered her legs, but her eyes were bright again, stronger, clear. Her skin no longer burned with fever. Her breath came smooth and steady. Wren brought her water with both hands. "You did it, Mama. You're better." She smiled and pulled him into a hug. "No, my little one. We did it." James stood nearby, arms crossed, leaning against the wall. A rare smile touched his face. "She's not just better," he said softly. She's winning. That morning, a group of people arrived, not guards, but citizens. Old workers, market women, street cleaners, people who had once turned away from Sari, now came carrying fruit, bread, soup, even warm clothes. One woman placed a folded blanket down. "We heard what the human did. We were wrong," a man added. "We forgot she was one of us." Another spoke. "Maybe. We forgot we're all the same." Sari's eyes filled with tears. James stood silently beside her. He didn't need thanks. He didn't want it. But deep inside, something healed in him too. Later, Sari walked for the first time in days. James helped her outside. She stepped slowly, leaning on him, but her legs held. The wind touched her face gently, as if greeting her return. Ren ran ahead, spinning and laughing. "Mama, James, look! There's a lizard under the rock." Sari smiled, then looked up at James. "You gave us back our lives," she said. "How do we thank you?" James shook his head. "You don't need to. Just live. That's enough." She placed her hand over his. "You didn't just save us. You reminded everyone what it means to care." He looked down at her, and for a moment, something soft passed between them. Not romance, but respect, and something stronger. Family. That evening, as the fire cracked softly, Ren sat beside James, chewing roasted fruit. "James?" he asked. "Yeah, buddy? Are you going to leave now?" James looked into the flames for a long time, then shook his head. "No," he said. "I think I found where I belong." Ren grinned. "So, does that mean you're my human now?" James laughed. "Yeah, I guess I am." Sari looked at them both, her eyes wet again, but with joy this time. "I never thought life could begin again," she whispered. James replied, "Sometimes new beginnings come from the darkest places." As the stars returned to the sky, the wind carried no fear, only hope. A boy who stole bread, a woman left to die, and a human who refused to walk away together. They had built something stronger than shelter. They had built a family. And that was how legends are born.